Welcome to Love Thy Lawyer. I'm Louis Goodman, and today we're going to talk about an end and a beginning. First, I'm going to tell you why this is the last podcast of 2022, an end, and then I'll transition to a beginning. This is the end of the third season of Love Thy Lawyer. This will be the last episode this year, and I'm going to take the Thanksgiving week through New Year's off, but I want to assure you that there's going to be a 2023 season, and some of the episodes are already recorded. They're in the pipeline. I'm taking a break to catch up. I'll still be working on the podcast. I'll still be doing some recordings, but it allows me to simply have a little more time to record a few more episodes and take some of the pressure off of the podcast. Each one of these episodes takes about 6 hours of time in order to really put together. There's a time factor that I need to deal with, and I thought that taking this holiday season off would be a good time to do that. So bear with me, and we will certainly be back. I do the work in advance, and I have episodes that are lined up already for next year. I think it's a good time to take a break because people are on vacation. People are spending more time with their families, doing things out of their normal routine. If you really need to listen to Love Thy Lawyer during the break, there's lots of episodes out there. There's over 100 episodes that have already been released, and there's a couple that I would just really recommend to you. If you go to the website, lovethylawyer.com, you can easily find them. But the ones that I really like are Mark McGoldrick's episode. He was a former Alameda County public defender. There's Charlie Weissenbach. She is an Alameda County deputy district attorney. And there is Tony Serra, who probably needs no introduction. So there's 3 episodes to listen to if you haven't heard them yet. If you've heard those, you want to hear some other ones, there's really a bunch of great episodes on the podcast, on the website. So go take a look at it, and I would encourage you to catch up on the episodes you haven't heard, just like I'm catching up on the episodes that we're going to hear. And now to my beginning. I guess I'm going to start in Brockport, New York. Brockport is in western New York. It's between Rochester and Buffalo. And someone would say, well, why does a city have the name with port in it if it's in the middle of western New York? Well, the answer is simple. It's the Erie Canal. And Brockport is this really nice little town in western New York, and it's beautiful. It's classic Americana. And when I was in college, I was in Brockport. I was working there for a project, and I came across a small garage where they worked on cars, and they had a car there for sale. And it was a black Triumph Spitfire with a red interior and a white top. Wire wheels. I fell in love. For anyone who's ever had a Triumph Spitfire, you'll know that it's a car that requires working on for 2 days and driving for 1. And as a result of having that car, I found a place in Rochester that sold car parts for British cars, and it was called Access Automotive. Well, not only was I a customer to Access, but I got a job at Access, and I started working there part-time during college. And that summer, after college, I got a job working there full-time. And I just worked there through the summer, working full-time, supporting myself at Access Automotive. And it was a great job. It was fun. Didn't pay a lot of money, but it was fun. I worked with some great people, and I learned a lot about cars. And one of the people I worked with there was a guy named Pat Markham. Now, Markham had been in the military. He didn't have a lot of formal education, but he was a very, very smart guy. Markham was not a Hell's Angel. But if you want to imagine what he looked like, imagine a Hell's Angel. He was a big guy. He'd played football in high school, and he played Army ball. He had a full beard at times. Markham just looked like a Hell's Angel. But he wasn't. He was a great guy. And he and I were partners at work. They partnered us up with each other because we had skills that sort of complemented each other. Markham was the guy who could lift an engine single-handedly. And I was a guy who could figure out how to get little parts off, how to deal with wiring, how to deal with sort of the finesse things. And then we had a truck and a trailer, and we would transport cars. And I always drove the truck with the trailer. Markham never drove, never wanted to drive. I always drove. But he taught me how to drive a truck with a trailer. He understood how to do it. He just didn't want to do it, so I was the driver. We were a great team. And as the summer began to come to a close, Markham and I were pulling an engine on an Opel Kadett. And we were taking a break, and Markham says to me, "Hey, whatever happened over there at the university?" He'd known I'd been in college at the University of Rochester. Markham says, "What happened over there at the university?" I said, What do you mean, what happened? And Markham says, "Well, what happened? Did you drop out? Did you just leave? Did you graduate? What happened?" I said, "No, I graduated." He says, "You mean you got a degree?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I've got a Bachelor of Arts in History. I said, "Yeah, I've got a degree." He says, "Well, buddy," he says, "Well, buddy, don't you think you could be doing something better than this?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "I suppose I could go to law school." Well, I'd been avoiding going to law school for years. My dad was a lawyer, and I just had always been a person who knew he was a lawyer. I'd always been able to argue things. I'd always defended myself and my friends whenever things would come up. Whenever it came to talking to school authorities, I was the one who did the talking. I was one of these people who was a born lawyer, and I believe that most lawyers are born, not made. And I've kind of borne that out in my interviews with people on the podcast. It seems to me that most of them knew from a very early time that they were lawyers. And I knew from a very early time that I was a lawyer. I had been in debate class and that sort of thing. And I'd done pretty well. We had a very, very good debate team that I was part of in high school. And so all through college, I just sort of really avoided the subject. But I guess when it came down to it, I started to think about it more. Another thing that happened that summer, I'd had to go over to the city hall for some reason, and the court rooms were also at the city hall in Rochester. So I walked through this big, beautiful building, and there were all these offices and bureaus and people walking around there in suits. And I just looked at these offices, and I looked at these hallways, and I looked at these people, and I said, I could do that. Whatever it is these people are doing, I could do it. So when Markham says to me, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm just kind of working and paying the rent." And he says, "Well, buddy, don't you think you could be doing something better than this?" And I said, "Well, I suppose I could go to law school." Markham said, "Well, buddy," he says, "you do that. You do that." I thought about it for a couple of days, then I went down to the bookstore and got the Baron's Guide to Law Schools, started looking through it. And if you know anything about Rochester, it's cold there. It starts to get cold in the middle of October, and it starts snowing by Halloween. And it snows, and it snows, and then it snows some more. And there's something called lake effect snow, and then there's more lake effect snow, and then there's other snow, and then there's lake effect snow, and then there's more snow. And somewhere around, and I'm serious about this, somewhere around the beginning to the middle of May, it starts warming up a little bit. And I was just done with Rochester winters, so I started looking for some law schools in warmer climates. And I got into Hastings in San Francisco, among some other schools. And I looked at a few schools, but it was quite clear to me that Hastings was where I wanted to be. And that is how I ended up in law school. So that was my beginning. That was the beginning of my practice of law. I want to say here at the end of this year that I wish you have a great Thanksgiving. And I just want to say that I am so grateful. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the opportunity to run a law practice. I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've been given in my legal career. And I'm grateful for the incredible gift that's been my life. I'm also grateful that I've been able to do this podcast because it's been fun. It's been something that interests me. It's been something that I really like doing. And I want to say how grateful I am to you for listening. A podcast isn't anything without someone to listen to it. And I really appreciate your listening. And if you've got something to say about this episode or any other episode or about the podcast in general, send me an email. I'm around. I'm available. I answer my emails. You can call me on the phone. I'm around. I'm available. I answer my phone calls. And if I could give you a part of my joy of living, a part of the wonderful life that I live, I would give it to you. And then you would know why I'm so happy in my life. And I'm so grateful for every single day. I want you to know that I get up every morning. I've got a dog. I take the dog for a walk. And I go out on the street. And I am consciously grateful for the fact that I can walk down that street on my own two legs and look up at the sky with my own two eyes and breathe the air through my own two lungs and be healthy and be ready to take on whatever challenges that day will bring. And for those of you who do practice law, you know that every day is a challenge. It's not an easy profession. We take on the problems of others. We take on the problems of the world. And I am grateful to have the strength to take on those challenges. And I wish you, and I really mean this, I wish you the strength and the happiness and the hope in order to take on those challenges in your own life. I will see you back here on this podcast, and I really look forward to another great year of podcasting on the Love Thy Lawyer podcast. Thanks for listening. That's it for today's episode of Love Thy Lawyer. If you enjoyed listening, please share it with a friend and follow the podcast. If you have comments or suggestions, send me an email. Take a look at our website at lovethylawyer.com, where you can find all of our episodes, transcripts, photographs, and information. Thanks to my guests, and to Joel Katz for music, Brian Matheson for technical support, Paul Roberts for social media, and Tracy Harvey. I'm Louis Goodman. If I don't make it through this year, those episodes will still be there.